Let's talk about some movies.
Imagine Transformers with no fighting robots.
Michael Bay shouldn't be directing movies.
You mean you don't want people from the methadone clinic?
Don't know the monsters down there in the feet. What's happening?
All right.
Say no to racism.
Don't be hating.
You said you loved him.
Welcome to the show. I am that Chris Gore. This is PodCRASH. This is the show where you get to hear a different podcast each week in which I appear as a guest. You get to discover new shows. I get to talk about a variety of topics. And this week, one of my favorite topics, of course, movies. Talking movies with Chris Mancini and Graham Elwood at Comedy Film Nerds. This is the second time I've been on the show, and we talked about a lot of the it was a bad week that I was on, frankly. It was sort of an off week. It was before the summer movie season kicked in, but it has kicked in, and Man of Steel has arrived, folks, and I want to talk about it. Let's jump right into talking about Man of Steel. I was very much looking forward to this after the last extended trailer came out, because we finally got to hear the new Hans Zimmer score, which I think is amazing. I bought the soundtrack. Right off the bat, I'm just going to tell you I bought the soundtrack. Regardless of what I think about the movie, the soundtrack is amazing. Saw the film initially in 3D at the ArcLight Cinema's midnight show, which is not always the best way to see it because it kind of throws off your next day. And usually I like to enjoy some drinks before the show. They had the Man of Steel martini, which was awesome. It was like a blue martini, which was pretty cool. They had another drink called the Lady Reporter. I did not indulge in that drink, but I did have a few drinks before the film, which kind of sucks because it's after midnight, you've been drinking, and you have to stay awake for a 3D movie. Maybe not the best condition to see the film, but I have to say I was blown away by the spectacle. And I thought that the casting was spot on for everybody. And in particular, I thought, and I should just mention that I will be getting into spoiler territory, so if you have not seen Man of Steel yet, you probably might not want to listen past this point. Because the reaction to this film has been mixed. My initial reaction upon seeing it was I was blown away by the spectacle. Okay? I was blown away by the performances. I thought Russell Crowe was a real standout as Jor-El. I thought he was amazing. I thought the look of Krypton was really cool. Some have compared it to Dune. It's just like, it's sort of this insectoid, weird, organic environment, which is trying to look. I feel like a lot of times now there's been so much that's been done in science fiction that a lot of sci-fi design of worlds is just being done to look different from other things rather than trying to separate itself from other things rather than be influenced by the past. So maybe that influenced the design. I have no idea. I happen to really like it. I thought it was like H.R. Giger designed it, which I think is a good place to start. But Russell Crowe was great. Kevin Costner, really good. And Henry Cavill, awesome. Amy Adams, of course, was good. The whole cast was good. But I was seeing it under maybe not the best conditions. And by best, I mean I was a little. And then you're seeing it with that midnight crowd who's screaming and applauding and everything. I saw it a few days later, and it's one of those things where there was a thing that bugged me about the movie. There's two things that have bugged me, and this is very spoilery, so you shouldn't be listening beyond this point if you want to be surprised. I don't understand what makes Superman a hero because of this film. I think being a hero involves some amount of sacrifice. You have to sacrifice something to be heroic. You have to think less of the self. And I think that what happened in this, I guess maybe I'm the only one that thought of this, but there's more destruction in this movie, and it's very 9/11 reminiscent with buildings falling down. I'm thinking, like, how many thousands of people died in the wake of Superman instead of inadvertently calling his Kryptonian relatives to this planet, rogue criminal Kryptonian aliens, but they come to the planet and basically wreak havoc. And I'm thinking, like, it's kind of like the guy who comes to the bar who seems like a nice guy, but he brings in a bad crowd and then destroys the entire bar. And then maybe he stops the people that destroyed the bar, but if he hadn't come to the bar in the first place, everything wouldn't have been destroyed. And that's kind of Superman in this. I don't know what he does really that's heroic, and I think it leaves kind of a bad taste in your mouth. In addition, he kills someone, which is something that I think Superman would never do. Batman does his best to avoid killing innocents. Even the original Christopher Reeve Superman, when he fought General Zod in the city, thinks to himself, I should get out of here because innocent people are going to be killed. And this is not present in and I don't blame Henry Cavill. I blame the screenwriters for really not thinking this through, or maybe thinking like, hey, it'd be great to have all this destruction. But all I'm thinking is, Jesus, billions, potentially trillions of dollars in damage. Metropolis is basically devastated. Is there ever a superhero movie with all his powers? Do you think that Superman could have just actually helped clean up? I think that would have made him a hero. Forget getting the job at the Daily Planet. How about actually taking a couple months off, helping with the construction crews, put on a construction hat, work with the unions, and rebuild all those buildings? If they had shown that, or at least suggested in some way, because I think it really sets up the next movie that Lex Luthor will almost be a hero, because he's got a really good argument for why Superman's kind of an asshole. He destroyed Metropolis. His very presence destroyed Metropolis. He may have stopped them, but if he wasn't there, none of this destruction would have happened. So, while the destruction was spectacular and amazing, I just don't understand. There should have been some line about that something about casualties, or the city was evacuated. There were very few casualties thanks to Superman. I don't know what he did where there was. It sort of makes me think, what does he do? What did he do that was heroic? At the end, he had to kill Zod and kind of and separate himself from his Kryptonian ancestors. He decided to really be an Earthling. I guess maybe that's the thing he gave up. But I don't even know about that. And then it sort of ends on a dour note with him destroying a drone, which is kind of a comment on how drones are used by the United States. He destroys a drone that's trying to find his location. I thought that was a little dark of a way, kind of a dark way to end the movie, like the U.S. government. I mean, it used to be that, like, hey, the president and he was fighting for us, and it's not this weird distrust, which feels more like Batman. It's almost like this is Batman with Superman's powers, is what this is in a way. And I know, being executive produced by Chris Nolan, that makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. There are parts of the movie where if I could not think about all those things that bug me, and a lot of other things bug me too, the branding. I mean, like there's Sears in the background. There's IHOP. There's like all these brands. The one thing I did like, Superman drinks a Budweiser. So I do like that he goes for cheap-ass domestic beer, which is always my preference. But other than that, there's all these brands that I'm sure paid for their presence in the film. And LexCorp, actually. There's some LexCorp trucks that you can see in one of the scenes of massive destruction in Metropolis. So I was sucked in by the spectacle. I thought for about 15 seconds about the story and other things, and it started to fall apart for me. So what I'm hoping is that this will be the Superman Begins, in the way that Batman begins, and then the second movie will really be the spectacular one, where Lex Luthor comes into play, where they actually introduce kryptonite, and they bring in some of the other pieces of the Superman mythology. So there you go. There are my thoughts on Man of Steel. If you would like to support this show, and I really do appreciate any support that you can give to PodCRASH, why don't you join Dollar Shave Club? It's a great shave. They send you razors every month. And all kinds, the box they send it in is really cool too. I signed up; it's amazing. So it's another way you can support the show. Just go to dollarshaveclub.com/Chris and sign up. In addition, new advertiser now, GoDaddy.com, which I actually happen to use GoDaddy. Whenever I come up with a weird, I do register some .coms just for fun. I have no idea if I'm ever going to use them, but I do own a bunch of really stupid .coms. And you can support me by going to sign up, to go to godaddy.com/podcrash, sign up, get your account. There's all kinds of discount codes too for GoDaddy, which is great. And I signed up years ago, so I really can't sign up because this is only good for new accounts. So go to godaddy.com/podcrash and register any of your .coms, your names of podcasts you haven't even invented yet. And there you go. So thank you for that support. A couple other things. I went to the E3 show, Electronic Entertainment Expo, and saw a lot of you there. I want to say thank you to all the people that stopped me to take pictures. It's nice to know that you still remember me. I know that G4 has been off the air for a little over 6 months now. But what's funny is I ran into Adam Sessler, and we were having a conversation just talking about like what's happened to all of our colleagues at G4. And a lot of them are working for Xbox, which I thought was surprising. But I think we both just expressed to each other that we're sick of talking about G4. We're sick of talking about G4. It's kind of like talking about an ex-girlfriend where the relationship ended badly and you're sick of talking about her, but your friends always tell her what's going on with her, and it didn't end well, and you don't want to speak, and you don't want to know anything, and you'd rather just sort of have it be a part of your past. It's because we've been talking about this for so long and knew it was coming for so long that I guess we're sort of G4 talked out, which it came up quite a bit in conversation at E3. But when I was there, I happened to check out the PS4, I saw the Wii U, which I don't care about at all. I have my Wii. I never play it. I have a Wii and I have a Me, and it was a great novelty. I don't care. The PS3 I used to play Blu-rays and original download games, but the PS4 looked pretty amazing. Really loved what I saw for the PS4. That may be, and also the fact that it's $100 cheaper. It's $399 as opposed to $499 for the Xbox One. I'll get to my thoughts on that in a second, but the PS4 looks like the game system to get. If you like game systems and you enjoy playing games, that looks like really the system that you're going to want. No release date for it. In fact, on Amazon, it listed as coming out as on the 31st of December for 2013. But that just is only because there's not an official release date. But it is $399. It is game-centric. The thing that bugged me about both systems, both Xbox One and PS4, is that there's not, when you see the graphics, it's really not, what is the compelling, what makes it next generation? What makes it better than what we're already playing on the Xbox 360? Why is it superior? And I didn't really see anything. There was no not a leap in graphics that made it look like this was something I had to have. The thing is with Xbox One, that comes with a lot of baggage and a lot of problems. One, it's more of a multimedia system where you'll be able to actually, there's an HDMI input, so you can input your television, your DirecTV, which one of the things I love about having DirecTV is that I don't have Esquire TV. That's a little in-joke there for the people paying attention from the G4 days. Anyways, so you can plug in your cable box, you can plug in your DirecTV, whatever, and it integrates your television viewing experience along with your gaming experience. I don't know that I need to. Basically, what they turn it into is like basically a box if you're a Bond villain. So if you're a Bond villain and you like having many screens up at one time, you can have a game here, you can be having a video Skype conversation with a friend, you can be watching a Blu-ray and have your television all on one screen, this is the game system for you. I'm just not sure with the point of entry $499 and the fact that it's not backwards compatible. And not only that, the Xbox One will not allow you to bring to the system all of the content that you've purchased via your Xbox 360. So, for example, all the videos that you've purchased, all the games that you've purchased, not going to be playable on the Xbox One, which I find unconscionable. It's irritating. You know, I bought many iPods, and I bought many things on iTunes, and all of that just goes into the next one I get. It's not going anywhere. I bought it. I own it forever. I think Xbox is going to have to backpedal some of these restrictions because it's almost, I feel like the design team that put together the Xbox, the technicians and whatnot, were eclipsed by the legal team who put in all these legal restrictions that have made it really not a particularly attractive system to jump into. And I really feel like there hasn't been any argument either from Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft about what is going to make me abandon my old systems, which I'm perfectly happy with, plenty of great games. It plays Netflix, and I get all this video stuff that is great. All these apps that allow me to watch Netflix and HBO Go and all this other great stuff. Great, but why do I need the new one? Why do I need the new one? Funny thing that came up while I was at E3, because I kept running into so many people who used to watch me on G4, people that remember me from Film Thread days, people that just remember me from the gaming world before G4, that were asking me, hey Chris, what are you up to? There's not a short answer for this. I'm obviously doing a podcast that you're listening to. You're listening to PodCRASH, so I appreciate that. Which I should mention that actually, if you haven't downloaded it yet, there is a PodCRASH app. That's right, PodCRASH app available for the iPhone, also available on Android devices in the Google Play Store, so check that out. There's an iPad version that's coming. It was just delayed by a week or so, but there will be a iPad-specific version of PodCRASH, the PodCRASH app available. So pick that up. I would really appreciate. Pick it up. What do you mean? Don't pick it up. Download it. Download the PodCRASH app. It's pretty awesome. If I do say so myself. I mean, it turned out really well. It turned out good. So, but people ask me what I'm up to. There's not a short answer to this, which kind of sucks because it makes it sound like I'm doing this show called PodCRASH, which is a podcast that you can download on iTunes and you can listen to a bunch of different places. So I'm doing a podcast. Secondly, many of you, some of you know about this, maybe some of you don't know about this. I am now the co-host of a show called Geek Time on Howard 101, if you have a Sirius XM radio. The show is hosted by Ralph Cirilla. I'm like the news guy, commentary guy, but I'm on the show, and they sent me that. I don't know if you listen to the Howard Stern show, but Robin Quivers is on via, she broadcasts from her home. And they sent me this kit that's the same, basically the same thing that she has, where I plug it into, my internet, and I am live basically in studio. So if you have Sirius XM, it's the show is every Friday at 9 a.m. West Coast time, noon East Coast time. Listen to the show. Geek Time is, if you like talking about geeky stuff, that's what we talk about on the show. And there's some we talk about what's happening in the news this week. And Ralph Cirilla, if you know, he's kind of a character on the Howard Stern show. And he's the one thing you need to know about Ralph, he's a huge nerd. Really, the two of us are really sort of nerds of a feather. Definitely. We're two guys that we're extremely geeky, which is why I think we got along so well. And I've been a guest on his show several times. When I would travel to New York, he'd have me in as a guest. But now I'm doing this regular thing where I'm on every Friday. So that's Geek Time. You should know about that. Listen to that every week if you do have the Sirius XM. You can even sign up for a trial. Get it for a couple weeks. Then you can listen to at least maybe 2 shows, maybe 3 shows if you sign up on a Friday. Anyways. Also, I have my comedy album coming out, Celebrities Poop, which you'll be able to pre-order the first week in July. You'll be able to pre-order Celebrities Poop. That is going to be out in the middle of July, available for pre-order. It's a book and a comedy album in one, sort of an art project that I've been working on for a while, and I hope you enjoy it. It's my first foray into stand-up comedy, about, 25 plus minutes. I don't know. I think I'm going to put some secret tracks in there. It's 25 plus minutes of stand-up, me doing stand-up, and then a book. Or you can just get the digital version, which comes with like the digital copy of the book. Also, I was hosting a show called Pursuit of the Truth for the Blaze channel. That's coming out, I believe, in August. I'm also working on 2 animated shows. One of it you know about, Fetishville. The other one you know about, The Last Guys on Earth. And Fetishville, we're going to be debuting soon the first episode of Fetishville. And then it comes out in the fall in earnest as a regular weekly show. I'm also doing more comedy and stand-up, performing also at I.O. West. I'm going to be I'm doing the Del Close Marathon at the UCB Theater in New York, and I believe that's I don't know, I think it's like just June 30th, June 29th. You know what? I don't even have the information in front of me. But I will tweet about that if you follow me at that Chris Gore. So how do I tell someone who comes up to me, hey, I'm doing PodCRASH, I got a comedy album coming out, 2 animated shows, hosting another show. I'm on Howard 101 on a show called Geek Time with Ralph Cirilla, and I do stand. Is that the short version? Is that the tweet version, what I just said? I don't know. It sounds crazy. All right, let's get to this week's Crash. If you are not aware of the show Comedy Film Nerds, it is a brilliant show. It is a brilliant show about movies. It is one of my favorite movie podcasts, and it's hosted by Chris Mancini, Graham Elwood, and they are movie geeks, and they bring on someone who's a comedian generally, or someone who's very just interesting. and to talk about that week's movies and DVD releases, and also trends in film. Maybe if a trailer debuted, they talk about the trailer, whatever's happening in big movie-related news that week. And the discussion that we had, it was really kind of an off week. It was just before the summer movie season kicked off. I think it was like the week before Iron Man 3 opened. And everything that we talked about, the movies we talked about, were shitty. I got to be honest. It was kind of, but was the discussion great? Yes. Were the movies great? Maybe not. But I will say this. A lot of times it's actually more fun to talk about bad movies than it is to just say, hey, that movie was great. The conversation about surrounding a horrible experience at the movies can actually be way more entertaining, not only than the movie itself, but then just giving a movie a good review. Who cares? So Chris Mancini and Graham and I had a great conversation. Here are highlights from my second appearance on Comedy Film Nerds.
All right, let's jump into it.
Let's talk about some movies. We got a lot to talk about. Now, let's start with Pain and Gain. Let's get it out of the way.
I'm so happy, America, that you only gave this movie
only
$20
million for Michael Bay movie.
so
Now,
happy.
I will say I went into this movie. I'm not a Michael Bay fan, but I don't have the vitriolic hatred that Graham has, so I had to go see this movie. I went in with a bit of an open mind, thinking like, okay, well maybe this is kind of like Michael Bay being a little more postmodern, making fun of himself and the types of movies that he makes, and kind of lets these actors really kind of
a funny trailer.
Yes,
It's a funny trailer.
So it's not a bad trailer, and it actually maybe
The only thing he knows how to do.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I'm sure he didn't do the trailer. It was one of those things where he went, okay, I'm going to benefit of the doubt here. I'm going to go into this movie. And I read a couple of the other reviews and like, oh yeah, Michael Bay, he's got a sense of humor. So I watched this movie. And the first thing that occurred to me is that Michael Bay does not have a sense of humor. It's actually horrible. It's when someone doesn't have a sense of humor, tries to tell a joke, and they screw it up constantly. That's what this movie was pretty much
and
like.
you're a rich asshole who everyone around you will laugh no matter what.
Yeah. So
And tell you, oh, Michael, you're hilarious.
This movie was based on a true story of three bodybuilders in Florida who, shake down one of these rich clients to get his assets and money. So it's based on a true story, which made it a little more interesting. Now, there were so many different ways you could have gone with this movie, and Michael Bay went nowhere with them. It's really remarkable.
The true story is gruesome. I mean, it's bizarre. Like the thing with the chainsaw, and then they tried to return it. I mean, that's like crazy sick. Like,
all that's
real.
in the movie.
Like the real story behind this, which is. It's shocking that people didn't think, oh, this is BS. This is BS. No, like the real story is actually more outrageous than the actual movie.
Now,
but it is funny to see, like it's effectively, you mentioned like the lack of humor. This is like, imagine Transformers with no fighting robots, just the people storyline.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that
and what's amazing is when you've got really talented people in this movie, like The Rock loves Dwayne Johnson, Mark Wahlberg and they can play against their character types to make things more funny. It's like, and Rebel Wilson, who's really funny. How do you suck the funny out of these three people? And then I have my answer by watching this movie. It's like if you have a billionaire and you tell him to make a movie, and he has the mind of a 6-year-old. This is pretty much what you would get. And that kind of is like, oh, you know what's funny is dildos are really funny. You know what's really funny is shit jokes are really funny. But there's so much wasted potential here. It's really it was definitely some pain, very little gain in this movie. And one of the things that really stuck out was that Michael Bay is really, really good at a couple of things. One of them is a slow motion dolly, and the other one is telling an actor to stand up with a scowl on his face. Those are the two things. Pretty much, that was 40 minutes of the movie, is slow motion dollies and telling muscle-bound actors to stand up with scowls on their faces. And I really thought this was kind of the kind of movie where if Michael Bay would have just said, you know what, I want to play against type. I really want to kind of make fun of myself here a little bit. I want to really trust in a funny script. I want to trust actors. And no, he can't direct actors. He can't direct scenes. He can't tell a story. So what's left? you have action and special effects, and ultimately that's what his movies are. If you take away any of the action and special effects, there's literally nothing left. And again, I went in with an open mind. I really thought that Michael Bay, he would have a great career as a visual effects supervisor if he was just dealing with special effects, CG action sequences, and that's it. He'd be the first guy I would call. It's like, okay, now I don't want you touching the story or talking to the actors, but I want you to storyboard this action sequence with robots.
You hit on a really interesting point that certain directors have all these amazing strengths. It's hard to have like everything. Like you can do comedy, you can do action. So you can actually character development. So you see directors that are good, but not in all areas. It's almost like a resource management video game where you're like, well, but if you do too much on the shields, then your energy goes down. You know, like you've got to adjust these sliders. Yeah. Seriously, you've got to adjust the sliders. So it's like what you need to do as a director is really be matched with the right material, which is why I think Michael Bay, actually matched with Transformers, speaks to his strengths as a director. And certain types of directors, too, like, I would not say we would talk about, like, Chris Nolan. I think
the only thing I would disagree with that is that Michael Bay shouldn't be directing movies. Other than that.
You're right about that. You hit it, though. When you said visual effects supervisor, I thought, oh, my God, that's right, because that's where he's masterful.
He's brilliant. I mean, when you go on the Transformers ride, you realize that's what Michael Bay does. He makes a ride, pretty much, that shouldn't be longer than 6 minutes.
The Pain and Gain ride. What would the Pain and Gain ride
be? Fun.
That would be pretty fun.
It would actually be. There'd be a lot of tits and ass and cocaine and a lot of dumb lines and actors just trying to survive a Michael Bay movie. So let's talk about Mud. This movie I actually was excited to see, but we switched a little bit because I had to go see Pain and Gain. So you saw Mud.
Jeff Nichols directed it. I think he wrote it as well. Is sort of this new young director, and he let me bring up all the stuff here. He wrote and directed it, and he's really only done one other film, which was Take Shelter, which was a little indie film that came out in 2011, and all Shotgun Stories. But this movie, the pace of it is very slow. It's very methodical pace, which is okay, but it's a good film, and it's really
that's got to be deliberate though, like a southern pacing kind of thing.
It is. It's definitely southern. It's in Arkansas, and it's living on the river, so that sort of slow life, which as you say was very deliberate. And the kids in it, the main, there's two little kids. There's one kid who's like the main kid, and he's the lead basically. And he's great. And Matthew McConaughey, like we talked about, I'm so glad he's doing this and Killer Joe. And I'm so glad he's making these movies he should have been in Pain and Gain. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm glad he's stepping away from that. I'm sure he'll keep making those movies because he
should have directed Pain and Gain.
He's got, oh God, he would have done a better job. I mean, some of those movies, I'll say this about Matthew McConaughey. Some of those movies that he made, I mean, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past has got funny moments in it. Michael Douglas is fucking hilarious. Watch that movie just for Michael Douglas. I mean, Matthew McConaughey is playing that guy that he always plays, a slick guy with a bunch of girlfriends. But
all right.
Sometimes when he plays that guy, I'm on board with it. He plays this career criminal guy, and who's kind of shifty, and they uglied him up a little bit. And I think he I'm like, bring me more of this, because I really like it. Like, I know we've been accused on this show, and this episode doesn't help support this, but we've been accused on this show of being like, studio movies are dumb and only indie films are great, which is not the case, because Iron Man 3 is coming out Friday, and it's going to be fucking awesome. This movie's really worth seeing. I mean, be ready for a slower
This week
pace.
It's the case.
This week is the case. Yeah, right, it is. But, like... And then all the supporting actors in it are Reese Witherspoon. They don't have a lot of big parts in it, but they do. Sam Shepard's in it, and they everyone does a really good job. I mean, Sarah Paulson, Joe Don Baker has a small part in it.
Now, how's the build of the movie? Is like it's slowly kind of revealed. Like this is not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. He's an ex-con who's just kind of hiding out. Does it kind of build like a thriller a little bit?
It is A little bit, yeah, because
But
there
it's
is
more of a drama.
It is a drama. It is not a. I mean, there's a drama. Like there's a manhunt, and then there's cops are looking for him, and then some bad guys are looking for him, and that the way that unravels, and kind of through the kid's eyes, through like a 14-year-old boy's eyes, and who this boy is, he's already becoming. It's really interesting how they depict this kid because one of the first scenes you see in him. Some guy's hassling a girl and he just punches the guy. Like, not good. I'm done with this. So this kid already he's like the moral foundation of the film, which is really kind of cool. This kid who's just sort of simplistic in his like, no, that's wrong. You know, you said you loved him. What you got to stay with that. Like, and it was that was really cool. And I really like this movie and go seek it out. I know it's getting limited release, so if it's not playing near you, you know, find it when it's on video on demand or whatever, or you know, obviously it'll come out on DVD, I'm sure at some point. But
And speaking of indie movies too,
I want to say this real
go ahead.
quick. Jeff Nichols is someone we should all be watching. I think he's a
Excellent.
good director.
I also got a chance to see a press screening of a movie that's coming out soon called The Kings of Summer. And I'll talk about that when it actually comes out. But there is a review on the site. I posted a review, so you can check that out at comedyfilmnerds.com.
Cool. Now, speaking of indie films, since it was a light weekend, Chris, you this movie came out a while ago, but you wanted to talk about. We haven't really talked about much on the show. Was the film Rubber?
Yeah, Dave Anthony saw it, but we wanted to get Chris's opinion.
I think that Rubber is just one of the most innovative horror films I've seen the last 5 years. I mean, it's incredible. It's when you read it's one of those ones where you read the description and it's already intriguing. It's a sentient tire causes havoc in a town. So what's brilliant about it is there's an opening monologue. Cop car pulls up. A guy gets out of the trunk, this sheriff, takes a glass of water from the driver, walks right up and is looking at you. And he says, in the movie E.T. directed by Steven Spielberg, why is the alien brown? In the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, why do we never see the killer's face? And he starts saying in movies, why in JFK does the president get shot by a stranger? Every movie has elements of no reason. Why is the alien brown? No reason. Why do we never see the face of the killer? No reason. You know, why is JFK shot? No reason. Movies, every single movie has an element of no reason. That's the beginning of the film, is this brilliantly compelling like monologue, straight to camera,
this thesis,
deadpan serious.
basically.
The thesis for the film. He walks right, he pours out the water, walks back, gets back in the trunk, and the car pulls away. All one shot. As another guy with a bunch of binoculars hands these binoculars to random people that are like in the desert. We have no freaking idea why they're there. The Joshua Tree, I don't know what they're doing. Suddenly, you see they're all looking through these binoculars. It's this tire that's in the desert. And the tire kind of wakes up, and rights itself, and then starts moving. And it runs over and crushes a water bottle. Then it tries to crush a bottle, a glass bottle, doesn't do it. And then you see the tire shake, and you hear this sound that is just piercing of a... And then the bottle explodes. Then it kills a rabbit. Then it kills a crow. Then it goes after people. And the people looking at all of this that's taking place with the binoculars are commenting as if they're the audience. This is boring. No, keep watching. It's every thought that you're having in your head about watching a movie while you're watching a movie, they're having in the movie, and they're speaking it. It's genius. It's one of those films that is self-reflexive, right? It's speaking about the movie as the movie is happening and commenting on itself while it makes fun of itself, and it's all about breaking horror conventions, and it demonstrates its thesis, which is, why does a frickin' tire become alive and blow things up? No reason. It is one of the best things I've seen. I'm sorry I missed it when it originally came out. It was kind of a thing that played at festivals. And
Does the tire ever attach to a car, or is it just
no,
autonomous?
It is just an autonomous tire. I mean, I don't know how they did it. I mean, it could have been a digital effect for all I know. I'm sure it's just some remote control thing. But the way it moves,
If they can do a tiger, they can do a tire.
right? I mean, it's anthropomorphized in the sense that like you're like you can tell that it goes up to a thing of water. You can tell by the way it moves. It's apprehensive. It's feelings like. You're ascribing emotions and feelings and motivations to a freaking tire.
Oh, that's great.
And it's also like the use of sound. It doesn't, one of the worst things in horror movies is when they, because there's only 2 scares in a horror movie. There's only 2 types of scares in a horror film. There is the wind-up scare, which is the, oh my God, at their feet, the monster's at their feet, and they're playing cards at the table, and we don't know, and the monster's down there at their feet, what's going to happen? It's going to happen. It's like you're winding up tension. It's a tension scare that's wound up. Then there's the other one, which is the boo,
right?
Which is like a cat coming out of a closet, and it's like, which is always accentuated by too loud of a
shock
sound.
scare.
Shock scare and tension scare. Those are the only 2 types of scares, and this just rips all of that apart and destroys it. And that thesis is brilliant. It's a movie. I happen to love movies about movies or self-reflexive films. There's a whole genre of movies about filmmaking, and this is one of those it's really about audiences looking at films. So I think that the Comedy Film Nerds audience would really appreciate this, and it's also gotten me in a habit. You were talking about all these releases, and this
Of looking at tires.
But this was one of those weeks in movies. I was really when I got booked on the show for this week, I'm like, oh man, this is a shitty week. Why couldn't I be on Iron Man? I fucked up. I should have asked for a different date. I fucked up. But what's interesting about that is whenever there's an off week like this, I've really gotten in the habit of it. It's especially now because I'm, I got to pay to go see movies now. I got to pay to go see movies. Sucks. But I look at what's on Amazon streaming, what's on Netflix streaming, and Amazon's got a program now where they're putting pilots for TV shows on there, and if you like them, they'll make the shows.
This is the future, right?
This is the future. So they've got now there's a whole slate of their television pilots that they've produced. And one of them
your audience is your focus group now.
The audience now is, let's bypass all that. Let's bypass all that.
Thank God.
The market research, all that. Like,
you mean you don't want people from the methadone clinic who got nowhere else to go to decide on whether your show gets picked up or not?
Exactly. I mean, and a lot of that's happening, changing now. I mean, like, for example, the television show Adventure Time, which is one of the weird cartoon shows that appeals to both an adult audience that will get the jokes that are, over kids' heads, and then little kids. That show, unbeknownst to a lot of people, started on YouTube as a series of YouTube videos, which you can still see. So I like this idea of, I mean, it's weird with movies because movies just come out and it costs so much to market a movie. And I really think that, they have not figured out a way to market movies inexpensively. It's for a movie to get a theatrical release and actually get some notoriety, it costs too much money.
You've got to buy buses.
You got to buy buses,
gotta buy billboards,
and you got to buy Twitter-sponsored, hashtags. I really like the more democratized arena of the internet where you can put stuff out there, and if that is able to gain an audience and people see it and like it enough to tell their friends, that's an endorsement. Is an endorsement that's an unpaid endorsement. Me telling you, and that's why I'm saying me telling you. I think Rubber is something that you guys should see, and I hope you do see it and discuss it on a future show because it is really one of those films that deserves to be championed. It's. I really think originality and uniqueness should be championed when it's successful.
Like with the blockbusters now, I mean that's true with like international casts, especially
but Nolan
with
weaves it in a way that's organic. Like it actually, it didn't feel like he was trying to shoehorn in.
It's going to be up to the filmmaker,
Unlike Looper, which I feel like they tried to shoehorn that like side thing where he goes and marries that Asian girl, and that's actually much bigger. A completely different cut of that movie for foreign markets, where that is a much bigger subplot and storyline.
Of course.
So,
there's a foreign cut. There's a Chinese cut for Iron Man 3.
There sure is. Yeah,
there is.
There's a Chinese cut for Iron Man 3. Yeah, and it has more Chinese actors in it and longer scenes.
No, I think this is a good thing in terms of just like I think we could do without racism. I think that's it's sort of, to me, that is my litmus test for someone that I will not be friends with. If someone is racist, not a fan. I hate that.
Way to go out on a limb.
As someone who is,
why don't you take a stand next time you're in here?
Yeah. As someone who just likes to date in the international scene, say
no to racism.
Why limit myself to white girls when there are just so many other types of ladies? No, I'm. Anyways, what I'm saying is.
So that's why you're not a racist, because of your libido.
Exactly.
I like all that different kinds of strange, baby.
Yeah,
Daddy's got to travel the world.
Yeah.
No,
hey man, don't be hating.
But what I'm saying is that then you've got different sensibilities. This is it's a mixed sensibility of that there's something about it that feels different, right? Mm-hmm. It's not an American sensibility of American values. It's sort of this mishmash of values from different places. For example, let me give you an example that will explain this. You're familiar with Turkish cinema. I'm sure you guys have talked about that on the show.
At great length.
Yes.
Well, no, but I mean...
yes and no.
Well, I'm talking about the Turkish cinema in which they take American blockbuster movies, they take the money shots, meaning they take all the special effects scenes,
and then they add,
recast it with Turkish actors,
right?
And they show
Star Wars and Spider-Man,
like the Rebel Assault, on the Death Star, but you cut to the cockpit and it's like a Turkish actor bouncing in this cockpit, like, we're going to destroy this death machine,
right?
But what's weird is you'll look at they did a Superman, right, and they did a sequel to Superman, Turkish version called. What's better than Superman? Supermen. So they have multiple people dressed in Superman outfits. The difference is this, which I think speaks to the core values of the Middle East, which might be slightly different than here in the States, is Superman kills people. Superman just kills the bad guys.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm
guessing this isn't a DC licensed property.
No. All of this is being done. Yeah, exactly. I mean, all these Turkish films, you could see a lot of clips from it. Like there's a Turkish Wizard of Oz, Turkish E.T., Turkish Exorcist, Turkish Star Trek. There's a Turkish Star Wars, a Turkish Empire Strikes Back, a Turkish... Anything that had big special effects, they'll just take only the special effect shots and the music, and then just when they cut to the scenes of people, the Turkish Star Trek's amazing. They actually redo the costumes and whatnot, and just do. They do. It looks like a fan film, but these movies are so. But what's interesting, observing that is the values are different, and so now I think how blockbusters have changed is the way they're financed, which puts even more pressure on directors doing the blockbusters.
Well, because the budgets are now $100 to $150 million.
That's low. Wasn't Dark Knight Rises close to 300?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're even
crazy.
higher now.
So you've got that, and then you've got sort of a appealing to values and concerns within individual parts of the world, which are
the Mandarin was actually Chinese.
Yeah.
In the in the comics and stuff, and it was definitely he was Asian. Now he's more kind of Ben Kingsley-ish.
He's Ben Kingsley-ish. Yeah. He's definitely the British Mandarin.
And then just give me his robe. That's it.
So I don't know how you guys feel about that. It's just sort of an observation of looking at blockbusters.
I actually want
then and now, in 20 years, it's really evolved it's just more international appeal.
Yeah, that makes a really good point, but I want to broaden out a little bit more to the actual formula of blockbusters. Like, it used to be for a blockbuster during the summer, it was star, special effects, genre movie. Whether it's, action, horror, science fiction, comic book. That always seemed to be the tried and true formula. And the blockbusters, the tent poles, would either rise or fall on that formula. Movies like Independence Day, giant sci-fi spectacle.
Yeah, Will Smith.
Right. Or, but now you have that formula, I think, is changing. Like we were talking about, Tom Cruise last week. You can't just put a star. You can't say Tom Cruise in a science fiction movie and expect it to be a huge hit.
They tried to rectify that in the movie because it's I think it's mislabeled on the poster. It should be Tom Cruise's. Because there's
spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry, spoiler. There's a lot of Tom Cruises in this movie.
Well, it's
interesting. Several hundred Tom Cruises.
It's interesting you say that because you talk about Independence Day,
Oblivion Moon.
Oblivion Moon. Yes, Oblivion. I preferred Oblivion when it was called Moon. Like that movie better.
Independence Day was an alien attack through the eyes exclusively of America. The
Yes,
whole world's
yes.
under attack. It is only an American point of view. Whereas now, as Chris was talking about, we are seeing, and I think this is a good thing. It is a good thing because we are seeing movies because they're thinking about the international market. We have to look at the whole world and see how it would affect a whole bunch of different worlds. Like World War Z, apparently, I'm so excited to see this movie. He goes all over. He goes to Russia. He goes all over the place. It's not just, oh, this is how I'm dealing with this zombie apocalypse here in the States. And I think that goes to how they're made. And like you say, the pressure. But I do agree. It does make it a little bit better. I mean, some of them.
Well, maybe I feel like they should just.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yes and
It's
no.
not like
Yeah.
Independence Day was some masterpiece,
Right.
But I mean, like for that type of genre movie, I mean, obviously, and then you've got your battleships and your.
I wish you didn't have your battleships.
Yeah, which and John Carter, but again, those are two sort of like John Carter. You said wasn't that horrible.
No.
Battleship was just unwatchable,
Yes.
but they
Yes.
both tanked here and made money overseas. Like those movies did not lose money.
John Carter, I don't think tanked as much as Battleship, but they still didn't.
They
meet
both made
expectations.
money overseas,
Yeah.
man.
Now, here's I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. Now, with this globalization of blockbusters and movies being funded by all different countries now, is it going to water down your content and your stories? I mean, if you have a very specific point of view from a certain country and you want to cast it and you want to tell the story in a certain way, now all of a sudden you have an investor from another country goes, no, you got to change that scene because of our culture here in this country.
I think here's what's happening. The blockbuster, yes. And I think the indie film, though, there's always going to be the indie film. And it's kind of what Chris was talking about, though. Like the movies like Rubber, they don't have the $50 million marketing budget to put it. So they're out there. They're being well, I mean, they're being well made. You just have to find them. Silver Linings Playbook. This movie, when it came out, I really liked it. I didn't think it was as Oscar worthy as other people did, but it's still a good movie. Like if you missed it, perfect time for the DVD.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But this movie, I feel, tricked me. Okay, and I'm like, I want to see a movie about a Philadelphia Eagles crazy fan tailgating. Oh God, I love sports movies. It's a dance competition movie. It's a dance competition movie. Don't be fooled. The football subplot, not even a big deal in it. It's dancing. Dancing.
Isn't it more about like
Mental
And
illness.
relationships and mental illness and all that crap.
and PTSD?
But there's dancing in it. I felt so betrayed. I'm like, I want to see football.
Being from Philly, I definitely have a soft spot in my heart for this movie.
It's a really good-
I really liked it.
It's a good film.
Although I will say the most unbelievable part of that movie when they're out in a street in Philadelphia and there's no one else around. That would never happen in real life.
Here's what this movie is great for. If you have like a stay-at-home date night DVD, this is that. This is what this movie I think is for.
And if you do have that, go out.
Or this fits,
Go out. Don't stay at home and go out. You need to go out. Seriously, you need to go out.
but this is a new category of movies.
Married people are stupid.
Yeah.
Have we brought-
But this fits in a new category of movies. This is a new.
If they don't go out, seriously. If they're home watching DVDs, no, you need to go out.
Get out of your
Enjoy
house.
your lives. It's a great town. You live in a great town. Experience it
wherever
wherever
is.
you are.
Wherever it's a great city.
see-
Well, the upside of this is that this fits in a category of movies I like to call movies I can watch while I'm on my iPad. I can have my iPad right in front of me and be.
Yep.
I see what's happening. It's fine. Just let them have their relationship. I will just flip board. So
Nice.
Look at internet stuff.
The Guilt Trip. Don't think anyone of us have seen that.
No.
Seth Rogen.
I used to get DVDs for free when I had this last job. I don't get them anymore. That well is dry.
And Broken City. Didn't you see that? I think.
I did see Broken City, and it was again perfect DVD movie. Like taking 2 hours out of your life to go to a movie theater and spend $10-15. No,
a little bit of corruption in this movie.
Oh, that's a city gone wrong, guy, and there's a cop caught between it. There's it falls apart a little bit, but again, this is the perfect have on your TV while you're surfing the internet movie.
Right.
Like it's
Got it.
perfect for that. So Silver Linings, if you're a dumb married couple that doesn't know how to leave your house, stay home for date night for that. my mom goes, Graham, I love that episode where you guys argued about being married or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, if you are married, take your spouse to see Iron Man 3 in the theater this weekend is what we're trying to say.
Yes. If you're, and I know there are many nerd couples that listen to this show.
And I'm not talking to the guys. I'm talking to
Ladies.
you, ladies. I know you want to see Iron Man 2. Take your spouse.
Take your spouse. He's going to want to go to this. You guys are going to have I am so fired
Now,
up.
if you're a lady and you want to see Iron Man 3 and your husband goes, I really would rather see Love Is All You Need, you may have a problem.
He's gay. He's gay. He's gay. Your husband's gay, and you need to let him come out, and you need to find a straight guy. He's not bad. It's not because has nothing to do with you. Don't blame yourself.
Well, it's funny because I always
It's not racist.
I always see these movies that come out the same.
Unless he's a Latino closeted gay guy, then maybe there's.
But I love these movies that come out the weekend that the big blockbuster comes out
this is
because
the
they're sacrificials.
counter-programming.
They're sacrificial lambs is what they are.
So Iron Man 3, obviously, we're very excited to see this movie. Now, the counter-programming is The Iceman. This is the Michael Shannon movie where he's a family man, but also a cold-blooded hitman, which is also based on a true story.
It looks really good. I saw the trailer for this in front of Mud. First of all, I remember seeing an interview with this guy, the actual guy, who he's terrifying. And so you're kind of like an origin story about this guy. This movie looks really good. I'm telling you, if you're going to see two movies this weekend, make this one the second. And if you're a single girl that really likes watching Iron Man 3, you email me.
I will take you to the second movie.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm excited. Oh, and we're going to be doing.
Oh, and you should probably say, too, and you're not crazy.
And you're not crazy. Yeah, don't be crazy. If you're like Iron Man, you're single and you're not crazy.
How does a girl know she's not crazy? I just want to see. Is there a test? Is that how does she?
You know what? Deep down, I think they know.
Do they?
Yeah.
Deep down, Deep down. Well, no. It's if they're like, I'm not crazy, then you know they're nuts,
Right?
Like people who are like, I'm a little crazy sometimes.
Like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. You're just human and you have your moments. But the people who are like, I don't get crazy. You're the one who's crazy.
It's everyone around me that's crazy.
Yeah, everyone's nuts. Everyone keeps making everything stupid. Oh, okay. You're nuts.
Right.
There you go.
So if she says she's not crazy, she's crazy. If she says she's crazy, she isn't crazy. I think that makes sense to me.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, when you date women from all over the world, that's,
Yeah.
you know, you have that criteria. Yeah.
International
You're international date line.
Well, speaking of Iron Man 3, we should say this as we kind of get into the wrapping up of the show. Next week, we're going to, because we're going to do a spoiler alert Iron Man 3, but we're doing sort of a crossover.
Oh, yeah, we got to mention this, too. Yeah, we're doing a crossover spoiler episode is with Rotten Tomatoes. So we'll have Gray Drake on our show earlier in the day on Tuesday, and then we'll go do the Rotten Tomatoes show for the spoiler episode later in the day.
Listen to us on Rotten Tomatoes next week, and it'll be all spoiler alert about Iron Man 3. Mm-hmm. Crossover!
I love that.
You love it?
Yeah. It's like when it's like when Superman fought Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Marvel
is.
DC Universe.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Cool.
And we're going to be doing, by the way, we're already planning this. We're doing...
A married couples retreat. No racists.
An
international
ladies only.
An
Are
international...
divorced men allowed to go?
No, we're going to be doing spoiler episodes for Star Trek, Superman, and potentially some other.
Did you
ones.
say Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Star Trek. Superman.
Superman.
I love it.
We're going to be doing World War Z spoiler episode with Matt Moak from the Zombie Research Society and Matt Weinhold,
Who is a zombie?
An
actual zombie. So you
it's
guys,
going to be great.
It's going to be a summer of spoiler eps. So get your nerd ears ready.
Get your spoil on.
Get your spoil on. Get your spoil alert outfits. I don't know what those are.
Yes.
It's like a glad
It's like you
bag.
dress like the Riddler.
Riddle me this, bat boob. How did the Man of Steel end? All right. That's our show. That was a fun show.
It's pretty exciting.
And I do want to thank you guys for having me on one of the worst weeks in movies. Just like, this week really blew.
We could have brought you on a Twilight week, you know.
Well, that's it for this week's Crash. I really want to thank Chris Mancini and Graham Elwood, two amazing movie geeks and two incredibly funny guys. You can follow them at Comedy Film Nerds. You can follow at Chris J. Mancini and at Graham Elwood on Twitter. Love those guys. Find Comedy Film Nerds on Facebook and go to comedyfilmnerds.com. And those guys have an app. You should download their app. Their app is pretty cool. It's actually, you know what? I think it might be cooler than my app, because with their app, which you actually have to pay for, my app is free. Okay, that's advantage me. Their app is not free, but you get some bonus stuff. This is what's cool. If you download the Comedy Film Nerds app, each episode has bonus material. And I forgot what I recorded for the bonus material on the Comedy Film Nerds app, but I know it was something. They make you record something at the end that's a piece of bonus material. So check that out. Also want to let you know that PodCRASH is part of the Sideshow Network. Check them out at sideshownetwork.tv. There's all kinds of other cool shows if you happen to like PodCRASH. Also get that PodCRASH app, because you'll be able to keep up with events and where I'm doing stand-up and whatnot. You can also just look all this stuff up. I have to come up with a short version of this. You can follow the show on Twitter at PodCRASH Show. Follow me at that Chris Gore. Facebook.com/PodCRASH. Go to iTunes. Please review the show. Leave a comment. I will read them on the show. I will do some shout-outs as well. I'm going to do some shout-outs right now, actually. I'm going to do a shout-out to Aaron Maxwell, who helped me get into the World War Z screening, which I'll be talking about on next week's show. Do a little shout-out to Nick Jones, who sent me a great letter. We had a really cool conversation. And Andrew Garner. Andrew, appreciate all your support, and I hope what I emailed back to you helps you out. If you want to email me and ask for a shout-out or ask a question I can answer on the show, email podcrashwiththatchrisgore@gmail.com. I do read the letters. Generally, I'll respond on the show. I'll respond here or on the show. But I'll do a shout-out if you ask, because why not? Why wouldn't I do a shout-out? All right, and one last thing. If you happen to be in Metropolis and two aliens are fighting each other, you might say something like, "Let's get out of here."
No, wait. I'm not a character. I'm just watching. You just stay there. Stay put. No, stay put. Good.
Hey, if you're still listening to this, you're probably a lot like me. You're the kind of person who goes to midnight shows of movies, and then you talk about it the next day relentlessly because you're a huge movie geek. And if you do that, then you and I are a lot alike, and I like you, and for that you shall be rewarded. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to PodCRASH with that Chris Gore, 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500, Los Angeles, California 90036. You will receive in return the PodCRASH Fan Club Kit. It's absolutely free. Also, if you come to any of the PodCRASH live shows, you'll be getting those free PodCRASH Fan Club kits. They're free. You just got to come to a live show or send me a self-addressed stamped envelope to the address that I just gave you. And as a bonus, if you keep listening, here's a little extra audio from my appearance on Comedy Film Nerds. Later, Esquire TV is going to go after a more prestigious demographic.
This is why
rich douchebags.
So many network executives are stupid.
Right.
And I know I'm not insulting anyone who's listening, because you're too dumb to find this podcast if you're a network executive. They have this. This happened to me when I hosted at the Game Show Network.
Right.
They do this stupid thing. Actually, there's a book about called The Warren Buffett Way. And this guy modeled why Warren Buffett has been so successful. And Warren Buffett has a name for this. He calls it the institutional imperative. Corporations do this. They're going along. You have Corporation A and Corporation B. They're in the same business. Corporation A is doing great. Everything's going good. Corporation B tries something different, has a little bit of success at it, and then Corporation A goes, "Oh, we got to do what they're doing." No, you don't. It's fine. I mean, Warren Buffett has said this ruins good companies, and that's what G4, a great brand.
Instead of expanding the brand and building on it,
or doing any programming that would appeal, like, you know, rather than episodes of Cops and Cheaters, they could have run old episodes of Star Trek.